Coming in at number 5, we got SCP-088. We'll kick our list off today with a horrifying reptilian monster that can easily ruin the lives of everyone around it. And no, I'm not talking about the political elite. We're talking about SCP-088. This humanoid with reptilian features was discovered deep underground, surrounded by gold deposits and strange objects. It appears to be mummified in a languid position, but is actually in a state of hibernation. Thanks to its current containment, it will remain as such, but it may recover if exposed to a more hospitable environment. We don't want that happening. See, this thing's around 6,000 years old, and it's capable of secreting all sorts of hazardous biological materials from its mouth and hands. In the 70 years that it's been contained, it has come to life twice, and both times it was able to breach containment by using a caustic fluid that dissolves most minerals and metals. Whatever the substance is, it's dangerous. The Foundation does believe that it has strategic value, but they're not willing to risk waking it up to extract it, and as such, they keep 088 contained. There's another compound that 088 can use that is possibly even more dangerous than the corrosive one. When exposed to this stuff, people undergo painful mutations. They turn into creatures with the same physical characteristics of the beast itself. Some say that it's the creature's method of propagation. Those that received larger doses of the compound mutated faster, and they actually put their safety on the line to protect it itself. So if this thing were to run free, we'd have a lot more indoctrinated lizard people on our hands. Not that such a thing is too uncommon these days, but hey, if we can slow it down, we should. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-198. Keep a close eye on your beverage containers, okay? I'm talking about any vessel meant to carry consumable liquids. Seriously, take no chances here, folks. If it feels off, don't try to pick it up. SCP-198 is a beverage container that takes many different forms. People have reported it appearing as a styrofoam cup, a beer bottle, soda cans, shot glasses, a water bottle, and more. Whatever shape it might be, it will also partially be full of whatever you'd expect to be in it. Water in a water bottle, Coke in a Coke can, coffee in a coffee cup. Containment procedures say that it appears to be a white porcelain coffee mug these days with blue vertical stripes. If no one's trying to interact with it, 198 does not exhibit any anomalous behavior. You can even pour stuff into it and nothing odd will happen. However, once a human picks it up, the show starts. After around 2 to 5 seconds, the vessel will instantly bond itself painfully to the person's hand. Folks have described searing, fiery sensations. No heat can be detected though. This happens pretty much no matter what, as long as the subject can get a grip on 198. And gloves don't prevent it from happening, nor does any other sort of protective measure. If someone grabs the cup or bottle or whatever it is in the moment, it will bond on what appears to be the molecular level. And it's permanent too, at least until the death of the holder. Even attempts to cut the cup free have been foiled by instantaneous healing factors presenting themselves to keep the two together. Post-bonding, the liquids previously held in 198 will disappear and be replaced by a very gross fluid or semi-solid. The material will fill up to the very top. Substances vary between people, but there's always some sort of bodily fluid or excretion. Saliva, sweat, blood, bile, mucus, urine, feces, and more. And combinations too. Yikes. Once 198 is full, the person holding it will become dehydrated and emaciated very quickly. Their malnourishment will increase until the point of death, usually over a period of 24 hours. Ingestion of standard food, liquid, and IV drip nutrients won't do anything. It seems the only way to gain nourishment while bonded is by consuming the contents of the container, and I'd rather die. It seems that that's the opinion of many test subjects too. See, the rate of dehydration and emaciation will stay the same even if you're consuming the contents. So subjects must consume plenty of yuck to stay alive. Even the most dedicated slop slurpers usually die after around 70 hours after succumbing to exhaustion or just outright refusing to consume any more. Upon death, the bond is broken and the vessel disappears from their grip. It will reappear on a nearby table or shelf as a different drinking vessel. So, I'll say this once. Watch what you're drinking. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-5835. It's kind of like having a fairy godparent or a genie to hang out with, except it's the absolute worst and kind of a Welcome to SCP-5835, a tutelary parasite that takes the form of a male domestic canary. You can call it Mr. Cadmium Charleston Conrad Cole the Canary-Colored Canary, Esquire, or just Cadmium for short. This little yellow bird will appear when a human subject expresses a desire to no longer see the color yellow. When this happens, it'll pop up before the subject, remove their ability to see said color, and then disappear. From then on, the subject will only see grays and whites, where yellow used to be. But that's not the end of it, no. See, yellow isn't necessarily necessary for human life. Sure, it's nice to have, but I don't think anybody's life becomes unlivable in its absence. However, after removing it, 5835 will constantly manifest before the subject, harassing them with facts about the color yellow and its apparent importance. It will also generally act in a standoffish manner and cause minor inconveniences to the yellowless person. Sometimes it'll defecate on yellow foods. Other times it'll disappear by exploding, causing damage. This will continue until the subject apologizes or dies. Because of this, there can't be more than one instance existing at one time, which is kind of nice. If one does admit fault and say sorry to Mr. Cadmium, it will needle them with more yellow-tinged facts before begrudgingly accepting the apology. Oh, and he slips in a little lifelong indoctrination to color yellow in there too, but you know, what that actually means still hasn't been discovered. Good luck if you're ever in that situation. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-072. Remember when you were a kid and tucking your entire body under the covers meant that you were completely safe from any monsters under the bed? Well, there might have been more wisdom in that than you think. SCP-072 is a shadowy, translucent projection that resembles a large hand with fingers that taper to a sharp point. It has only been observed to manifest when a human enters REM sleep in a bed infected by the anomaly while their feet are exposed to open air. Who would actually do this? We may never know. But when somebody meets these requirements, 072 will emerge from the foot of the bed and tap on the person's foot until they're awake. From that moment onward, the subject will basically be subject to sleep paralysis, able to see and experience what's going on, but unable to move. It's at this point that 072 begins to use its pointed fingers to cut portions of flesh away from the subject's exposed feet. With each strip cut away, it will return under the bed and then come out without said collected material. This process will continue until it's taken all of the exposed foot or feet away. Apparently it's very painful, but the paralytic effects prevent people from screaming or calling for help. Even so, this isn't fatal as long as subjects seek appropriate medical care. They will have lifelong psychological damage though. There's more than one bed too. In fact, any bed within a 10-meter vicinity of one manifesting 072 will also gain an instance. The destruction of infected beds reveals no anomalous materials nor pieces of feet from the victims. And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP-2399. This massive, complex mechanical structure will destroy us all one day. It only seems to be a matter of time. Currently located in Jupiter's lower atmosphere, it is equipped with all sorts of antimatter-based weaponry. It's damaged, but it's been using little drones to repair itself for years. Based on broadcasts picked up from the structure, we can assume that it was coming for Earth with the express purpose of erasing us. However, it collided with one of Jupiter's moons and then found itself unable to escape Jupiter's gravitational pull. Since then, it's been rebuilding, and the rate at which it can do so is increasing. Even though it's damaged, it seems to have a limitless power supply, advanced electromagnetic shielding, matter-disrupting weaponry, and a precise tracking and targeting system. Essentially, the day it can pull itself free of Jupiter's orbit, we're pooched. No human weapons could conceivably affect it at this point. Hypothetically, an extremely large electromagnetic pulse could take it down, but that kind of tech doesn't exist outside of science fiction. Sheesh. Well, we can find some comfort in our inevitable doom, right? Boom. That's the noise we'll make when 2399 gets itself together. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-1879. No matter where you're from, or who you know, or what your favorite fast food joint is, there is one fact that we can all agree upon. Door-to-door salespeople are vampires who should be avoided at all costs. Except for the Girl Guides. Thin mints get you a pass. Considering that 1879 is a non-cookie-toting salesperson, he's bad news. 1879 is a phenomenon affecting houses in Washington state. It only affects interior doors, which is a terrifying prospect, and you'll see why in a second. If someone comes within 2 meters of an affected door, they will hear knocking coming from it. This knocking will continue until they answer. So this salesperson's already in your house, and you can't use that door until you deal with what's behind it. When you answer it, you'll be accosted by a male humanoid trying to sell you a product. And the product in question is always vastly different and kind of weird. It's not very often that it's something anybody wants or needs. He'll dramatically explain the purpose and appeal of his wares, often while cornering whoever was unfortunate enough to find them in their home. His explanations are not often effective, and his sales pitches usually use underhanded techniques. Once he's explained all he needs to explain, he'll offer a price. But the price never really consists of money. No, it's usually something detrimental to the health of the subject. And if you don't accept and buy right away, he will raise that price. Talk about a hack. 1879 is so persistent that they absolutely refuse to leave you alone until you buy. And sure, you could try to kill him, but he'll just come back later with a vengeance. You might be thinking, well, it can't be that bad, just buy the crap and send him away. Well, you might want to reconsider your purchase depending on the price. One pitch was to sell a red rose, with the price being your heart. When purchased, he takes your entire cardiovascular system. Whoops. For the price of some sugar, sweetie, 220 bananas could be yours. But now all the candied goods in your house are gone, and you're stuck with Donkey Kong's banana stash. Now, one sale was particularly strange. He sold a thermonuclear explosive for the price of his customer's soul, but he only took their Aretha Franklin albums. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1057. Scared of sharks? Who isn't? Those things are dead in the eyes, man. Well, what if you can't even see their eyes? Or any of the shark parts one would expect from a shark. Then you're in trouble, aren't you? 1057 is an animate empty space 5 meters in length in the shape of an adult tiger shark. It doesn't appear to have any mass, but it displaces water around it somehow. Thanks to a refractive index approximately that of air, it's partially visible in salt water, and its anti-shadow is visible under bright light. Foundation researchers have done experiments where they inserted objects into its body and found that truly nothing is actually there. These experiments have really pissed off the shark though. It acts more or less like a normal tiger shark, and anything it eats disappears. Originally, it was captured in a public pool after killing 2 swimmers, mutilating a lifeguard, and causing a panic that ended the lives of 5 more. Man, I used to teach swimming lessons, and let me tell you, some kids are afraid of invisible sharks in the water. I just would have never expected to actually get attacked by one. After the attack, a document was found pinned to the pool's bulletin board. It read, "Panic means that the idea of a shark could be more dangerous than an actual shark. It can even be more dangerous than no shark at all. Are we cool yet?" Those damn artists and their pseudo-intellectual shark attacks. Better watch out, better watch your back. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-583. While not explicitly dangerous, this SCP would make it impossible to enjoy or understand any media of any type, which is an especially scary prospect for me considering what I do for a living. 583 is a mini DV videotape made of transparent green plastic, also known as "it looks super sick." The first 12 seconds of footage on the tape are blank, and then playback of a recording of Sesame Street Live begins. Oh, the horror. And there's no sound in the recording. Around 3 minutes in, an actor starts choking and tries to get out of his costume. He dies, and then 3 more actors do the same. At 3 minutes and 31 seconds, the recording stops and the rest of the tape is blank. Disturbing, right? Well, the anomalous qualities have yet to show themselves. After watching the tape and viewing the first actor die, viewers will suffer from a perception disorder. To them, every character in every piece of media they consume from then on will die in a similar fashion, through asphyxiation. Everyone chokes and dies within a 3-minute time period, and that 3-minute time period is pretty loose too. Short things like jokes will even be hijacked by a quick and anticlimactic death. Wow. So why did the chicken cross the road? Who cares? Halfway across the road it fell over and choked and died. Imagine living like that. My brain would collapse. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-3887. Remember having an imaginary friend? Well, sometimes they don't go away. 3887 consists of 2 entities, a young woman and her paranormal pal. We'll call them 3887A and B respectively. A is pretty much just a normal human woman, save for the fact that she has a strong emotional attachment to B. B is a grayish-green, horn-headed, yellow-eyed entity with a rat tail and long arms. She's got male and female genitals and feeds on fear, a la Monsters, Inc. Sunlight causes her skin to blister, and her presence disrupts and damages digital recording devices. Essentially, B is a freaky, fear-eating monster that has somehow befriended her supposed prey. The Foundation first discovered this duo after an incident at a party that left a whole lot of folks in need of amnestics. See, during this party it appears that A's date was humiliating her in front of the guests and acting in a demeaning manner, as was characteristic of their relationship. B did not take kindly to this, and as such manifested under a table and assaulted the date until their limbs were no longer attached to their body. Ouch. This scared the hell out of A and sent her into a state of shock. Following containment, A's fear levels went way down as stresses of daily life seemed to disappear. This caused B to starve to a degree and lash out at Foundation members. Through this, they learned that there are more creatures like B out there, and they're feeding on the fear of children. So I suppose even if B doesn't escape, there's quite a bit to worry about. And lastly, at number 1, we've got SCP-1533. This is a whole collective of entities that do their best to look and act like humans. They manifest at different kinds of social gatherings, from raves to house parties to book clubs. They're not known to organize events that rely on folks already knowing each other, like family reunions or birthdays though. The individuals that make up 1533 have the ability to mimic people they interact with, and these new traits enter a database of sorts which any instance can access. Each instance chooses a personality type and uses the learned behaviors to perform a certain role. Over time, they've become more socially competent and have actually been able to model more persuasive personalities. It appears that there's a natural selection of sorts going on, with good and useful traits sticking around and negative ones being discarded. Through doing this over and over, the group has become very alluring, but dangerous. Beyond just gathering data, 1533 seems to exist just to exercise its power of manipulation on people. By inflicting emotional and physical harm on subjects through the use of charismatic personalities, they seem to compete with one another to see who can emotionally dominate the most event-goers. This could look like challenging a target's self-identity by persuading them to agree with obscene, untenable points of view, or by convincing them to do something embarrassing and then ridiculing them. The more wins they score this way, the more status they seem to have in the 1533 circle. It's a very strange economy, like a big group of mysteriously manifesting con artists who trade in tricking people for fun. I feel like I might have met one or two of these entities out there. Kicking us off at number 5, we've got SCP-309. If you thought stuffed animals were creepy before, just wait until you get a look at this. It'll make your skin crawl. Or do something much worse. Much, much worse. 309 is a small, plush stuffed animal that looks like it's been turned inside out. Seams and stitches on full display. The cuddly toy is understuffed, making it very flexible and floppy. It doesn't do too much other than sit there. It just appears to be a normal, if not externally confused, children's toy. It has no effect on inanimate objects, but contact with living subjects is highly dangerous, if not life-threatening. Yeah, this cozy, squishy guy should be absolutely under no circumstances be cuddled and or squoze. If a human or animal lightly brush the toy with a finger or other small digit, they will feel extremely uncomfortable for about 10 minutes. Subjects have reported extreme nausea, although vomiting is never induced. The unpleasant feelings are so extreme that most have not been able to maintain voluntary contact for more than a few seconds. But that is just the shallow end of this horrific swimming pool. If 309 is pressed firmly up against someone, or a subject tries to pick it up and hold it, that individual will be violently and painfully turned inside out. You can be just like Bun Bun here. Twins! The skeleton will remain unaltered, but all these soft tissues that should be beneath the lovely protective layer of skin will be resituated to the exterior of the body. Want to know the best part? Or the worst? It's not immediately fatal. Just really, really painful. Oh, and also it's irreversible, so if you do survive, good luck living in a bubble with all of your tendons exposed. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1123. Speaking of body parts that should remain under a layer of skin, let's discuss a cursed skull. 1123 is a human skull missing the lower mandible and all of its teeth. On the forehead is a message written in human blood. This message translates to remember. If you're further than 5 meters away from the skull or are looking at it through a photo, this message will not be visible. As you get closer though, it appears to be more legible and fresher until it looks wet. Around 1 meter, you'll start to notice other anomalous sensory phenomena like the smells of cooking or ashes, sounds like soft crying or distant footsteps, and even tactile responses like grit in your eyes or glass splinters in the sole of your foot. None too pleasant. Upon touching the skull, subjects will enter a dissociative fugue state that lasts anywhere between 90 minutes to 6 hours. During this time, they'll experience confusion, disorientation, and an adoption of a new identity and memories. Knowledge and language previously unknown to the subject will be acquired, and they'll often either have a state of total catatonia or end up attacking someone nearby. Once the state ends, the subject will return to their previous state with memories of the knowledge they gained. Some say it's as if they lived a whole other life as someone else. These imprinted personalities share a lot of similarities, like being a victim of subjugation, torture, or imprisonment, dying by violence, and their death being a result of targeting by a political mass movement. Some examples of past personalities are that of an Armenian farmer who was burned alive by the Ottoman army, a Ukrainian girl beaten to death by members of the Soviet brigade, and an Iraqi victim of a mustard gas attack. As such, people who have touched the skull often share psychological effects common to the type of trauma experienced by the imprinted personality, like grief, survivor's guilt, and depression. No other anomalous effects have been reported though. Swooping in at number 3, we've got SCP-3001. While not exactly a monster, the effects of this SCP are quite monstrous indeed. It's a to explain too. 3001 is a hypothesized paradoxical, parallel/pocketed, non-dimension accessible through the creation of a momentary Class C broken entry wormhole. It's believed to be infinitely expanding and almost completely devoid of matter. A low Hume level causes the matter inside to decay extremely slowly, with simulations suggesting over 70% of an organism can disappear before function is impeded. I'd rather keep 70% of myself, but hey, if it keeps me alive. Way back when, Dr. Robert Scranton and his wife Dr. Anna Lang were testing some reality-bending technology, resulting in Scranton being transported into 3001. He was presumed dead for a while until he managed to get a panel chronicling his experiences transported back to the Foundation. This is how most information about 3001 was discovered. Apparently, he's been surviving in 3001 for over 5 years, with his mental and physical state constantly deteriorating. Now, the SCP itself is quite scary, seeing as nobody wants to be transported into a pocket dimension where nothing makes sense, there's no chance of escape. But even scarier are the theories that postulate that 3001 is the origin of the ever-prevalent SCP-106. The black corrosive gel filling all sorts of spaces in Scranton's log lent legitimacy to this idea. Imagine if other folks gained access to 3001 and became a creature like 106 and then started requiring femur-breaking sacrifices. One terrifying old man is enough, don't you think? Floating in at number 2, we've got SCP-5031. This is a perfect example of why you should always try to treat things with compassion, even if they are dangerous. If researcher Huxtable didn't attempt to make a connection with this SCP, it may well have sliced and diced people to its heart's content. Or maybe it was super risky to attempt connection at all. Who knows? Back to the SCP itself, 5031 is a humanoid of unknown origin. It was originally believed to be non-sapient, but this theory was soon disproven. However, the idea that it will temporarily cease to exist when viewed, that one stayed true. Photos and video don't capture it either, but traces of its existence like blood trails or scratch marks will remain even when it disappears. Viewing its shadow doesn't cause it to cease existing either, and its appearance has been deduced through viewing it this way. 5031 has a small head, no discernible neck, and arms that branch out into 3 limbs at each elbow. It levitates about half a meter off the ground and has a blade-like lower edge. Although it has no nutritional needs, 5031 will hunt and consume any organism it encounters. This all changed though when senior researcher Stanley Huxtable came onto the scene. He saw the containment procedures as cruel and unusual and decided to figure out a way to have 5031 live a less stressful life. Through conducting experiments, he discovered that music and play reduced stress levels. Eventually, he also found out that 5031 liked rotisserie chicken and was able to differentiate between images, making correlations between those images and rewards. Over time, it even learned language and made requests for certain types of food. It even became adept at cooking and verbalized needs for other ingredients. Good for it. While this is a happier ending than most containment procedures, imagine what might happen if it went free and was unable to get the compassionate treatment it received from Huxtable. It very well might just go back to its slicing and dicing ways with any creature it comes across. And finally, at number 1, SCP-4910. Teeth are terrifying. You can't tell me otherwise. Any movie that presents the audience with the destruction of teeth or the use of teeth for something other than the mastication of food will send chills through my entire body. So 4910 is a tough one for me to imagine. It is known as a predatory dental quadruped and has been seen over 100 times across continents. The precise details are unknown, mostly thanks to witnesses rapidly succumbing to the effects of 4910 attacks, usually resulting in the rapid overproduction of teeth leading to the inability to verbalize. A mouth so full of teeth you can't speak. Oh no. Recording devices left to capture images will develop dentin in key components and as a result no longer work. Researchers have tried to get victims to draw the beast, but artistic representations are all over the place. However, they all focus on various amalgamations of teeth and gums. Gross. 4910 is capable of differentiating between regular civilians and people who seek to capture it. Civilians are used primarily for food, while adversaries are made into vessels for reproduction of anomalous properties. So if you're trying to get rid of 4910, you may well become part of it in a really gross way. All attempts at capture to date have failed. 13 mobile task agents are missing in action, with 7 needing to be euthanized and 5 falling to auto-transformative cannibalism. So little is actually known about this SCP, the imagination really takes the cake here. No.